Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our Canada Spotlight. We are ready to get started. Sorry for the delay. Technical difficulties, doesn't matter how many years we've been using Zoom, there's always something that happens when we're ready to get started. So I appreciate all your kindness and your generosity. So we are going to give you a good show today, a good spotlight. We have Beth Beckert, our chairperson for Global Business, who's going to be hosting. And we have Lori Cashy, our immediate past chairperson. Is that so both with experience. Now, you're going to have time for some questions and answers. We really want to give everybody a chance to speak and say everything they want to say first before we start asking questions, because they might just end up covering what you were going to ask anyway. So, and every speaker, we have a lot of them. I think we have 6. They all have to get through today. So if we can just be conscious of that. We have Glow when it's time to speak and ask questions. They cannot hear you online, so she will have to bring the microphone to you. So just be patient for her to get to you for your turn. So we have our sponsors today. Our global friends of global sponsors, we're always very appreciative of them. We have Colonial Mortgage, we have Money Corp, we have FERPTA Solutions, and we have Stellar MLS, who couldn't be here. But please, when there's a break and we're doing our networking at the end, the wine and cheese for the people who are here, please go over and speak to them. Welcome to my people who are home online. I don't want to forget about you. We're grateful that you're here. And this will be recorded, so you do know that anything you want to refer back to at another time, you can do that as well. So we're going to bring up Eva today from Money Corp, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her business and why she's so passionate about global.
Thank you. Am I standing here so everyone sees me? Okay, I'm locked in the middle. Hi, everyone. How are you today? Pleasure to be here. I'm based in Orlando, but it's always a pleasure to come to Sarasota, although I always wish we were at the beach sometimes instead of here. But I'm grateful we're here because we're talking about Canada. When you guys think of Canada, I'll start there. They are an international client, okay? Let's set that straight. I know we love our Canadian friends, but they are an international client, and they're the #1 client in Florida, you guys, from international buyers. So we really need to know them, know how they think, know how they work, know how to service them, and to build our global contacts, which is why events like this are so great. And how many of you are headed to Realtor Quest in a few weeks? Nice. I see some hands. I really wish I was seeing some more hands. Do you guys know about Realtor Quest? I guess we should start there. It's a fantastic opportunity to network with Canadian real estate agents. It's their national conference. It's their national real estate conference. I've been a few times. I'm going to be there in a few weeks. Nina will be there. It's incredible because you're building one-on-one time, FaceTime, with potential referral partners. And the thing that stood out to me last time was a lot of the agents were like, I want to move to Florida myself. How can I be an agent in Florida? How can I buy in Florida? So not only do you have potential referral partners, but you literally have agents that are potential clients as well. So I really encourage you, if you haven't thought about it, consider going. I think it's the best international show to sort of dip your toe in the water in for. But as far as Money Corp goes, we're here to help with your international transactions. Canadians, Europeans, Brits, whoever it is you're working with, we handle the currency part and the transfer of funds. And yes, Canadian clients use Canadian dollars, and that is not the same as US dollars. So we help with converting that money at better exchange rates than the banks. We help your clients save money. We help them with timing, with saving, and we make sure the right amount gets to closing on time, on the correct date for closing, so we can all have happy hour together. I'll be there the rest of the event, so come over with any questions, and I hope you all enjoy the event. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
So can everyone hear me? Can you hear me online? Thank you. So thank you, each and every one of you, for participating in this panel. We greatly appreciate you. We greatly appreciate that you've taken your time and your knowledge to join us this afternoon. I'm going to introduce my co-host, which is Lori Cashy. Yes?
Most of you know me. I was last year's chairperson for Global Business Council. And last year I did also attend Realtor Quest, which was awesome. I would highly recommend anybody in the room or online listening to us that you seriously consider it. It was a great opportunity for us to network and meet people and get referral business. And actually, at least one of the people that's on today is a great friend of mine that I met I did meet him at Realtor Quest. I actually met him at another global function, Emocionate, 2 summers ago. And then we did hook up with them last year, Tamer Fahmy. So we're excited to have him here and actually excited to have a lot of people here today. So I'm going to go ahead, because we are running a little bit late, and introduce our first speaker, which is Jill Udil. Jill is a seasoned board of director with extensive governance training throughout the Institute of Corporate Directors and has hands-on leadership experience as chair of the Canadian Real Estate Association. She brings deep expertise in governance, strategy, risk oversight, and stakeholder engagement with a proven record of chairing complex boards and committees at the local, provincial, national, and international levels. She is recognized for thoughtful deliberation, collaborative leadership, and commitment to strong governance practices. She chaired a CEO hiring process at the Canadian Real Estate Association. She's led governance, modernization, and strategic oversight initiatives at CREA. And she's represented Canada at the NAR Global Alliance Committee. She's done a lot of really great stuff. So I think that she is going to be an excellent source of information. So Jill, if you're ready, we would like to welcome you to the Realtor Association of Sarasota and Manatee.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pauline and I have a presentation we were going to do together, so I don't know if you also want to introduce her. But I believe you have a video. So maybe after you introduce Pauline, you would play the video that was sent to you from CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association. And then we'll get started.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to just do a quick, I'm just going to tell everybody about Pauline real fast. She's been actually involved in the real estate profession for over 4 decades. She served as the 2015 president of the Canadian Real Estate Association. She was 2009 president of Ontario Real Estate Association. And in 2017, she was on the board of directors of NAR, was the 2022 president of the Ontario Realtor Care Foundation. She's a CIPS, which everybody in here should be as well. And if you're not, we can talk about that later. She also has her ABR and FRI from the Real Estate Institute. She's a broker of record for Royal LePage, which if you guys haven't heard of them, they're like one of the biggest real estate companies in Canada. And she is also from one of the prettiest towns in Ontario, Smith Falls. Some of the Hershey chocolate of Canada is something like the Hershey chocolate of Canada. She lives on the Rideau Lake and sells waterfront. She's also an annual contributor to the Royal LePage Summer Recreational Report. So that is Pauline and Jill. So we look forward to hearing from both of you after we run your video.
Thank you.
I think you can still get a pretty decent flight to Toronto. I will tell you that we went last year, and I mean, you have about 2 weeks until the actual event, which is 13th and 14th of May. So get on Skyscanner. There are discounts. I will tell you, Maria Grulich reached out to me earlier today and said, we have a discount code for anybody that wants to go. It's $99 to attend. So Realtor Association of Sarasota and Manatee is, they've bought in with Florida Realtors. So that means they're going to have their own kiosk there. How are we doing? We close to the video? No, okay. I'll just keep talking. So how it works is Maria, who is the head of global for Florida Realtors, gets a list of everybody that's going to the event. She gives you booth time. So you will have, whether it's like 2 hours, 3 hours, it's a 2-day event. Last year we had 2 2-hour sessions for myself, my sister, my mom, we're all business partners to represent Sarasota. So you get that time, you bring with you some sort of, I would recommend bringing a brochure with your information on it. They'll have, Florida Realtors will have handouts as well. I think last year they did little like sand buckets, which Canadians love. They love everything beach. So I would go beach crazy. and maybe some suntan lotion. How are we doing? Nope. Girls, do you want us to run the slide, or is there a video? And maybe, was it a video?
It's a
It's a
video.
video with Korea's economic forecast.
He said it was on the front page. Maybe you just have to press play. But anyway, so there is also a discount code for the hotel, which is very close to the convention center. It's very walkable. I do have, if anybody's interested, at the end, I have some flyers here that have a code on it, along with information to sign up for a Zoom. They're going to have, Florida Realtors is going to sponsor a Zoom. And they're going to talk about the trip. So they'll answer any questions that you have. What do you think? Is there a play? There we go. We just need some sound. So anyways, there's going to be a Zoom, and they're going to talk about the event. They're going to talk about... Okay, so they're going to talk about the event. They're going to talk about, how the scheduling goes, all that good stuff. And I think there was something like 40,000 Canadian realtors there last year. So what's that?
No.
Yeah, wow, exactly. Wow. It's a lot of realtors. Pitbull was the keynote speaker, which seems kind of odd. I know, like, really, Pitbull? And that's what we thought too. He gave like maybe a 5-minute talk at the beginning and then put a full-on concert. It was like an hour-long concert. It was awesome. So Canadians know how to do it right. They party, they're fun, they're nice people. Last year, I know everybody was concerned about the climate, politically and all that kind of stuff. But let me tell you, like, we were welcomed completely. Never felt weird, bad, anything like that. So I think we're ready. Fantastic. Or not.
You know what? We can skip that and save you time, and Jill, just pin Jill and I together, and we'll just do a presentation if that
I bet
helps.
you guys are better than that video.
Oh, there it is.
Home
There
sales
you
have
go.
been moving slowly recently, and there have been a lot of recent developments globally and here in Canada that make many people wonder what the broader implications might be on our housing market. So, what are we seeing? Welcome to the Canadian Housing Market Report. I'm your host, Dawn Faithful, and I have Sean Cathcart, Korea's senior economist, with me to provide us with an update on all things Canadians' real estate markets and what it means for you. So, Sean, home sales have been moving slowly recently, and there have been a lot of recent developments globally and here in Canada that make many people wonder what the broader implications might be on our housing market. So, what are you seeing?
Sure. Well, in March, home sales nationally didn't really move all that much at all. So minus 0.1%, basically unchanged, but basically unchanged from a pretty slow month of February. So it did stay slow. I know when we talked last month, I said that we could see in the weekly data that the second half of February and the first half of March were looking better, which they were. But the war in the Middle East started, the strait was closed, oil went through the roof, it stayed high. Markets started to expect that the Bank of Canada is going to have to hike rates later this year. They're fully priced in for the fall at this point, which means bond yields go up, which means mortgage rates go up. And that's a major factor affecting the housing market. We could actually see that at the end of March. It was a Monday in the fourth week of March. At one night, all the lenders shot their 5-year fixed mortgage rates they were offering up by almost 0.5%, which is not insignificant. That could be like thousands of dollars a year. Now, the thing about that right now is, I'm no geopolitical expert, but I read what everyone else reads, and it seems like we're still talking about that conflict in terms of weeks, not months or years, and it's, we can wrap it up quickly. So I think right now a lot of buyers are going to see higher mortgage rates and go, well, you know what? They're probably going to come down later this year, so let's just take a wait and see, which is going to take some people back to the sidelines at the most important time of the year, April, May, June. So it could be very similar to what happened last year, where tariffs took people out in the spring and they came back later. But that's the good case scenario at this point, right? We'll see how that plays out.
Right, of course. So things have slowed down, but the situation hasn't fundamentally changed.
Right. So yeah, exactly. Like, so we haven't flipped from going, up to totally going down. A lot of the fundamental factors that were playing out under the surface that we were watching are still there that gave us confidence in our forecast. But it's certainly not going to be as, as much of a recovery to the extent that there is one that there was going to be. But things to consider. New listings are actually at the lowest level since the summer of 2024, almost 2 years. So it's not like listings are piling up and no one's buying them. It's a slow sales, but also slow market generally, which keeps things in balance. So the overall number of listings, every listing in Canada for sale right now, that's been falling since last May, and it's 10% below its long-term average. So it was way higher 10 years ago, it was way higher in the 90s. So that's not super problematic right now either, although there's regional differences. The number of months of inventory at 5 months of inventory nationally is exactly in line with the long-term average. It has not changed for 3 months. So that's not super worrisome either, although again, regionally it can change. And under the surface, when we look at daily and weekly trends, so that we can see all the way through this year, days on market have been falling. So houses are selling a little bit faster as every week goes by. And the sale to list price ratio, what it lists for versus when you negotiate what it sells for, that's been getting smaller. So they're selling faster and the deals are coming a little bit closer together. So those are all good signs of a market that's stabilizing. We're seeing it in the MLS Home Price Index. The MLS Home Price Index nationally fell 0.4% in March, month over month. Not small, but smaller than in February and only half the decline in January. So that's getting smaller. So the non-technical term I would say for that is prices coming in for a landing, which is an important milestone for a lot of buyers that are looking to buy an asset. They want to make sure that it's not continuing to go down. Unfortunately, now that we're almost, I think, going to hit that milestone, we've now got mortgage rates that are no longer at a bottom that buyers might be waiting for. So we'll see how, we know that, I think that's going to affect sales for sure, that fewer people are going to jump in with a fixed rate mortgage right now. We'll see how that affects that price trend as well, that coming in for a landing trend, or if that causes a little bit more price weakness if it takes some demand out, right? So that's something to keep an eye on.
So you alluded to a downward revision of the latest forecast, but not yet a change in the overall direction.
Exactly. So I could almost do a replay of our videos from January and March data last year. We came into the year with a fairly optimistic forecast, but it was conservative, right? But sort of a 5% increase in sales as buyers come back into the market. And I thought it could have been higher. We've now revised that down to just a 1% increase in sales. And I think that depending on how things play out globally, that could be worse. So it's not only the number that changed a little bit, but the expectations of the risks have also changed, right? So that's where we're at right now. So still the same sort of story, that some demand is going to come back in, possibly later in the year, from first-time buyers, not as much. And similarly with prices, we're expecting those to be up 1.5% this year, as opposed to back in January, we were thinking closer to 3%. With more expensive sales coming back in BC and Ontario, that now looks like that's going to be delayed. And the additional, outside of BC and Ontario, some of those hot markets that were really benefiting from really record population growth that they no longer have and that are already slowing down, we're expecting that slowdown to happen a little bit faster too, because of the additional headwinds that have come about in recent weeks. So in general, what you could maybe see is a year that kind of looks like last year, where you're optimistic and then something comes and pulls the rug out from under the spring market, but then you get a rally later in the year, and that's all going to depend on this year how fast things get back to normal, sort of globally and with inflation and all the rest of it, right? So.
And of course, we'll keep tracking the details as things change, and we'll come back and fill everyone in next month. So here's the recap. After a brief spring market pickup, home sales were essentially flat in March, down just 0.1% as fixed mortgage rates jumped by nearly half a percentage point late in the month, pushing some buyers to the sidelines. But this isn't a reversal. Listings remain tight, about 10% below average, and prices are stabilizing with the MLS HPI down just 0.4% in March, a smaller drop than earlier this year. Still, the outlook is softer. Sales are now expected to rise just 1% in 2026, down from the earlier forecast of about 3%, while prices are seeing gains of about 1.5%, potentially. For now, it's a wait-and-see market where higher rates may delay, but not derail a recovery. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to learn more, as always, head to stats.crea.ca. That's all for now.
Stop draining your savings on expensive implants or crazy dentist bills. Introducing the Longstaff all-inclusive custom denture set, the Smile Savior that swept Europe is finally here in the USA. Whether you have missing teeth, broken teeth, or no teeth at all, just snap it on in 1 second. Boom, you instantly have a Hollywood white smile. Is it just a regular denture? No.
Okay, Jill and Pauline, thank you for that very informative video. That was some good information, fairly parallel to what's going on here. But whenever you guys are ready, we're ready to hear what you have to say.
Okay, great. Yeah, Pauline and I decided we were chatting about it and we were wanting to do the presentation together. So I don't know if you can pin us both to the screen for the Zoom, and then we're going to chat back and forth. But thank you so much for having us. Thank you for the invitation. It's a privilege to be able to come and talk to you. We don't get these opportunities that often, and I think with Zoom, it's great that you guys have, thought to do this. We really should reach out more.
Well, we're thrilled to have you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so thank you. It's interesting when you listen to the bio that you said on me at the beginning. I'm not sure the information on that. It's funny because what I think of that I don't even think was in there is the most important thing for me that my bio is that I'm a realtor, and I am proud to be a realtor. I have been a realtor for over 30 years, maybe longer. Don't do the math.
Yeah, funny, I don't see that. I'm looking at it right now and I don't see it. So you should make sure that you put realtor at the top.
Hilarious. I guess, yeah, so it's interesting, but I have been a realtor for several decades, and I love it, and I still love it, which is really great. My dad was a realtor, so it really started when I was 9 going to open houses. But anyways, I was definitely jealous of you talking about going to Realtor Quest. I love Realtor Quest, and I can't go this year. So I hope everybody gets to go and has a great time. It is so valuable, and it's a great conference, and the happy hours are definitely fun.
Definitely. I will just mention too, Florida Realtors has something together with Treb. So we do have a
wonderful
hour already officially set up. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. So what I will say is I do some residential homes. I'm a commercial realtor, and Pauline can speak about herself in a bit. I sell single family homes, townhomes, condos, home buyers, or either, to live in or investment. And what was capped already by the video, of course, is that we are in a buyer's market here in Vancouver. And I would say here in Vancouver, I'm actually in Maui right now. In the United States, but,
wow, thank you.
I'm from Vancouver, BC, which is the western end of Canada, and it's definitely a buyer's market. So there is no multiple offers really anymore. It is easy to get a property. People are negotiating on price, heavily negotiating on price. And when you've been a realtor for a long time, I guess what you do realize is that when it's a buyer's market, buyers should buy. And often what we see is the opposite. People buy when other people are buying and don't buy when they're not. But it's an opportunity. And in real estate, I've always found that I don't sweat it. If it's a slow market, what's slow becomes busy later. And there is different trends that go up and down. And as realtors, we're there to just help everybody navigate whatever market that we're in. So Canada has curbed immigration over the last couple of years, which has made an impact as well. So there is more supply. A few years back, we were clamoring for more supply because there wasn't enough for people to, to buy, and trying to get more home builds going. So a single family house, for example, in Greater Vancouver area, so that's not just the downtown Vancouver area, but Greater Vancouver. So an average price, I thought you might be interested, right now in our lower market, average single family home price is $1,854,000.
Wow.
The average condo price right now, so not a townhome, but a condo, is $706,000.
Wow.
So the single family home price is probably around, I'm guessing, approximately a couple 100,000 less right now than it would have been even 2 or 3 years ago. So just for a reference point.
Sure.
Now, again, in the outskirts of Vancouver, farther from the downtown core, it's going to be less. In the downtown, it's going to be, the average would be much higher than that. Just to give you some perspective on the difference in our market and how slow it is. So because there was so many home builds happening, we were building, lots of developers were building, the supply was needed not long ago. This was an interesting stat that I just heard, and I thought it kind of puts things into perspective of how different the market is right now. A couple of years ago, developers pre-sales for condos, so pre-sale condos for developers, in the first quarter 2 years ago, there were 6,000 pre-sales on the market, out there available for people to purchase. In the first quarter this year, there was 128.
Wow, that's hugely different.
Right? It's so
big.
different. And what we are finding now is that the people that did buy 1, 2, 3 years ago from developers, they're having trouble completing on those properties because they're now finished. They're at a stage where they can actually complete on the property that they purchased, but the value is down, so their deposit is gone and they no longer qualify. So we're going through issues there, which is really tough. And developers aren't really building because they have to have X amount of sales before that they can get the buildings out of the ground. So that has been drastically different. But eventually, what goes down will come back up, and we just have to guide our clients through it. So that's really where our market is now. Pauline, would you share with us some information on where you're from and how the market's going?
So a little different than Jill's market. I live in rural Ontario, which I'm an hour south of the nation's capital in Ottawa, and I'm an hour north of the U.S. border. My favorite bridge, the Thousand Island Bridge, takes me to New York State. So Florida is near and dear to me. I have to start with that as a Disney loving family. And as the mother of a former competitive equestrian rider who used to send a horse to Florida every winter, I can tell you that I love dearly being in Florida. But real estate is basically local. And I always say that. So in Ontario, where I sell recreational real estate, we have a lot of lakes where I live. Our market is very competitive. We had a very slow spring. To the point where winter seemed to hang on forever. It finally left us about a week ago. And I say that because it's only 8 or 9 degrees here today, which would be, somewhere in the high 40s to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's still not very warm. But our recreational market, because we've had a slow start, we are in multiple offers. So it's an interesting thing how the different markets are. We also sell farms. And farms have been very competitive. We have lots of people who want to keep, it's funny, it's like going back to rural. Everybody wants a few chickens and a horse and a cow.
Yep.
So we're seeing a very different recreational and farm market. It's because we have lots of space. It is lots of where people want to retire. And it's interesting. I have lots of U.S. clients who have purchased in our area, who purchased waterfront. And we're going to talk about, the challenges about purchasing in Ontario. And Tamara and I are both going to share some interesting stuff on that. So it's every property is unique. I always say that that's the neatest thing about waterfront. And what drives our recreational properties is the fact that God's not making any more lakes. So we do have a very limited amount of perfect waterfront, that run off the dock and dive into the water, which, by the way, you only do in the summer because our lakes freeze in the winter and it's
I can imagine.
off the dock with your skates. So Jill's going to talk about why people buy in her market, and I'll talk about why people buy in mine. Jill?
Well, the area that I am from in Vancouver, it has a lot to offer. So I think that that's why we have a lot of tourism. We have a lot of people wanting to buy in Vancouver. One of the things that we have different than a lot of Canada is we have a very mild and moderate climate. So there are years where we don't even get snow. We do get a lot of rain. We're actually about 3 hours north of Seattle. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with the weather in Seattle. They get a lot of rain. What we have differently than that is we have amazing mountains and ocean. And so that gives us that opportunity to enjoy the beaches in the summer, skiing on the mountains in the winter. I live about an hour and a half drive from my door to Whistler, which I know you guys have heard of. It's often been rated even the top ski resort in North America. So we're super lucky. So we have all of the different things for lifestyle in our area. There's so many places to go hiking, and we're a very active lifestyle because we can afford that with our weather patterns. So yeah, I would say that those are some of the highlights for Vancouver.
That sounds beautiful.
Pauline?
And ours is about obviously waterfront. We are also within an hour of the Quebec border. So very close to having sort of that international flavor that Quebec gives us, as well as skiing in Quebec. Our Ontario mountains are very low. We still have 2 ski hills in our immediate area. But lots of golf courses and lots of summer recreational and winter recreational. People love to cross country ski in the winter here. And so it's very much the fact that we're within an hour of both the international border and an hour of the nation's capital makes it pretty exciting for people who want to live here. And we have an airport in Ottawa, so very quick to fly out of, but we are, again, only 3 hours from Toronto. And so it's very driven by where do people want to be. And so lots of people like to retire to recreational country. And so we get lots of referrals and lots of people who want to have a summer residence here. And interestingly enough, I have many clients who have summer residence in Canada and winter residence in Florida. So it's that kind of a
Absolutely,
market.
best of both worlds.
It is the best of both worlds. And so we're going to talk briefly about the foreign buyers plan. I'm going to throw it to Tamara's going to talk about it later. In my market, the National Foreign Buyers Plan ban does not exist because we're exempt because of our postal code, which is your zip code. Ours is a postal code. Because of it, there is no foreign buyers ban in my area. So we still have international people looking at our waterfront. Interestingly enough, though, Ontario has a surtax, and I'm sure Tamara will talk about it more. But I've been in real estate since, as mentioned in my bio, for over 4 decades. And when I came into real estate, there was a foreign tax for international people buying in Ontario, and it got abolished. So I always say everything has a time thing on it. So one of the things is, of course, the foreign buyers ban is only here. It came in COVID. It's set to sundown in 27, which is next year. So I look forward to that. But there are exceptions to it. So never let your client who you're referring to a Canadian realtor, the Canadian realtor will know about that. Jill, but you were the home of international buyers. Vancouver, I always think of it as the most international city almost in Canada. How's your market for that?
Well, obviously this temporary foreign buyers ban is only in certain areas, and it was put in for a specific reason. The intent, from what I have gathered, it was for a short time, just to curb when it was really needed because we were in such a shortage of housing supply. But yes, in Vancouver specifically, we are for sure the most multicultural area in Canada. Really, it's like the world is in one spot, if you ask me. And I encourage all of you to come for a visit and give me a call if you come, for sure. Yeah, so I'm sure that will change. I know it will change hopefully soon. because we've always welcomed foreign buyers. It was just a temporary measure to make some headway. And now that we are in a buyer's market, I can see that changing. So, I mean, when we found out some of the other folks that are going to be on this call with us today, Pauline and I had some different things that we wanted to chat with you about. So we're going to make some of them a lot shorter because we have, obviously, like RBC, the bank is going to be on here, which is fantastic. So we're going to just make a couple of points and let them take over on that subject. But in our markets, or I shouldn't speak for Pauline, but I'm sure it's the same, is that we definitely pre-qualify all of our clients before working with them and have them go to a bank like RBC, for example, a mortgage broker, to get pre-qualified. I know that it's quite different how things, like the process, it's a similar idea, but the process, and the reason I say this is different, and I don't know what it's like in Florida or other places, but I had an opportunity of purchasing property in Maui. And what I've learned is that the process is quite different as far as the information required. If you're a Canadian purchasing in the US, I can tell you, you pretty much better have your receipt for what you had for lunch. It's very strict. It's very strict, and rightfully so. So yeah, so it's interesting, but we do get our clients pre-qualified before we work with them, to make sure that we're not wasting anybody's time, and also so we can set their expectations at a reasonable level. Pauline, do you have anything to add? How does that work at a rural property?
Yeah, we get everybody pre-qualified. Again, waterfront is sometimes a little more challenging, and we have rural locations, certainly farms are a little more challenging. But RBC is my bank. So, and I'm sure we're going to see it. I think it's everybody, all the realtors on here use RBC, which is interesting.
Is there any other bank? Is there another bank that exists?
There are 5 major, and we just coincidentally are all RBC clients. We will be seeing RBC obviously as part of Realtor Quest, and Tamara and I will both be at Realtor Quest because who doesn't want to be in Toronto for Realtor Quest? Anyway, so the other thing is once we have them qualified, we have to move forward, and we have lots of interesting things that are different here, especially no different than when you're selling rural in Florida. We need to worry about wells. We need to worry about septics. We need to worry about rights of ways to those cottages. We need to worry about zoning. So we're very fortunate, though. Again, I say this is a post-COVID world. Everything's online today. So we can even do well record reports in Ontario online. And so again, I always say this, every province in Canada has different rules and different paperwork, much like every state in the United States. And so where we still do sell condos, obviously, and Tamara will talk about his market, but we have waterfront condos even. But I'm going to throw to Jill because I know Vancouver, you use the word strata more than you use condo.
That is true. Interesting, something that you were just saying though, Pauline, reminds me of it. Especially in BC, I shouldn't say especially, I'm sure it's the same throughout Canada. It's so important to work with a realtor that specializes in the area that you're from. When you mention wells, of course, I don't know anything about that because we don't have much of that. But it is true, like in the interior of British Columbia, for example, I'm sure that all of you at some point maybe have seen some news. We do get a lot of fires in the summer. And the realtors there have specific clauses, force majeure clauses that allow them to complete on properties when they can't be completed on time. So it's interesting. One thing for Paulina was just mentioning about condominiums or strata. We have a lot of those here in Vancouver, of course. And a realtor is responsible here, for interest's sake, is responsible to read all of the minutes. We have to order all the minutes in advance of our listing even hitting the computer. So the assumption and our job is to order the minutes, the AGMs, 2 years of documents, read it all, understand it so that we can speak knowledgeably on the property. And then anybody that puts an offer on that property will review at least a minimum of 2 years of all of the documents. We also have strata depreciation reports, which are mandatory in buildings, and that shows all of the issues, all of the maintenance things going forward. So that's been a big step in differences. But what I did find interesting, because I didn't know this, and that's one of the neat things about, you know, working with CREA and being able to get to know realtors from across our country, is in Alberta, which is the adjacent province to British Columbia. So it's right next to us. I was shocked to not. So we're responsible for reading all the minutes. There, they have actually made it the opposite, where realtors are not allowed to interpret those documents. They not only don't have to read them, they are not to comment on them because they
I like
don't.
that better.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I do
Sounds way
too.
easier. I'd be moving there.
Right. Thank you. Exactly. I mean, and it's not that I don't want to do the work, but it's idea of interpretation. Does your client
Absolutely.
find something that's wrong serious where I think it's nothing because I've seen it 100 times?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, in my opinion, I would love to see it the other way because there's too much responsibility on realtors that we can't possibly know, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. They have actually switched it the other way in Alberta. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how that goes in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there is definitely differences across Canada as well.
Of course. Okay.
So
So
Jill,
yeah,
just to tell you, in Ontario, the
yeah.
buyer's lawyer has to read them.
Yeah, that
Our
makes
clause
sense.
reads that the lawyer reads them and signs off on them.
That is awesome. We need to do that in BC.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I had to miss that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just wanted to throw this out there. This is we are going to ask all of our panelists this one question, and you guys can answer it straight away if you want to, or if you want to answer it a little bit later on. I'm sorry we didn't give it to you beforehand, but we just want to know what would you advise American realtors that are dealing with inbound Canadian clients? What is the number one thing that you think that they should know about working with Canadian clients? And again, you don't have to answer right off the cuff. You can like give it a sec and think on it, but we're just trying to think about things going both ways, coming up there, referring you guys clients, and the vice versa.
So you mean number one things of referring to Canada or vice versa? Sorry, I missed that.
About Canadian clients. So us selling property to Canadians.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to answer it right now because it's the easiest part of this too, is the process. So most Canadian clients who we're sending to the U.S. and I've referred many people to different parts of the United States, they are used to the system in Canada and how we don't. And Jill's going to touch on it a little later. We don't know the meaning of the word escrow. So it's not something, it's a foreign word to us. So It's important that when you have a Canadian client, you talk them through the process.
Gotcha.
And it's very different than the process here. Not that they're going to be, oh my gosh, but it's very different. As Jill mentioned, that when she was buying in the US, she had to have everything, including her receipt for lunch. It's a very different process in terms of where their mindset has been. So, and obviously the biggest thing they already know is the conversion of Canadian funds to US funds will cause them to have a heart attack first. After they've recovered from that, the process should be easy.
Great.
Jill?
Okay. Good to know. So quick question then, do you say the word escrow, do you not have anything like escrow or you just don't use that word?
Jill?
Well, yeah, might as well skip on to that. We don't use that word, and it's very different, the process in Canada, as Polly mentioned. I mean, you nailed it, and that's what you really need to work your clients through and have them understand. And before I forget, the biggest thing I would say is I've had lots of friends that have purchased in the United States, many in Maui, through both banks and brokers. And the one thing that's always a huge surprise, and I would suggest that would be first, is thinking they qualify when they maybe don't, because there's so much information required of a Canadian that may or may not even be normal for the States. I don't even know. I just know it from the Canadian standpoint. And the amount of information and the length of time to qualify is astronomical compared to us getting qualified in Canada. Us getting qualified in Canada, I could have mine in and out to a broker in 3 days. In the States, it could take months or weeks, or God only knows, because they'll never have the amount of documents that they're going to require of them that might take them like literally a month to find.
To collect,
Um, yeah. So that's the biggest thing I would say, is that if you're taking on a Canadian client, get them approved and have them set the expectation. Set the expectation of the length of time that it will take for them to get all this done. Yeah. Or they're going to just be disappointed, right?
Okay.
But just RBC just put a note in that said they can qualify you in 48 hours. So always use
Wow.
RBC, obviously. They're our go-to bank. How is that?
There you go.
That's
They're all
Again,
great.
why everybody should be using RBC.
That's right.
It's,
48 hours. Well, I guess 48 hours plus the person finding all the documents that they don't have.
Right,
and,
right.
and just to touch on the next thing is the closing. So our closing here, you know, closing costs, most provinces, we have a land transfer tax that we pay, except for Toronto, which has two. But so the costs, we obviously go through with our buyers, especially our first time buyers, which many Canadians are in Florida. What's it going to cost to close? You know, is there any hidden fees that I need to know about that aren't normal for what a Canadian would expect? You know, are you going to tax me more because I'm not a US citizen? Always a good question. You know, title insurance, which, you know, First American Title, I know exists in the US. We do have title insurance. It's more, in our case, because our titles in Ontario are guaranteed by the province. The purpose of title insurance here is often for unique and unusual things. Somebody's well is on the wrong property. Somebody mortgage fraud exists, and somebody mortgages your property. So we're so used to our great titles in Ontario and in Canada that needs to be explained probably. So it's the start, you know, what's the process going to look like, and is the end, what are the closing costs, and what's it going to look like as I move towards closing. And it's interesting because in every province there is slight nuances, obviously, but Canadians, for the most part, I think, you know, we're all known as the friendly, cautious country, and I think knowing all the details is always, you know, the most important part.
Great. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I want to see, do we have any questions in the audience for Jill or Pauline? Anybody? They were like super thorough. But anybody got anything for me? No. All right, ladies, you were too thorough. That was it, for sure. But thank you so much for your time. We super appreciate it. And I think we're going to hop on to our next panelist. And Beth is going to introduce her. Azori.
So, excuse me, I apologize. There you go, Carrie, go, that's better. Okay. Our next panelist is Marlene Azori, RBC Bank, U.S. Regional Advisor, cross-border banking. Marlene has more than 35 years of experience as a cross-border expert with both personal and professional. As an accredited financial planner, she holds a bachelor's of arts degree, PFP, IFIC, and additional designations from the Institute of Canadian Bankers.
Marlene's not here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
We can. Thank you. Marlene has been a strong collaborator of the RBC USA since inception, celebrating 23 years in 2025, networking with her partners and COIs on both sides of the border. She has led with advice, sharing her benefits of her unique cross-border banking while serving as the voice to the consumer, family, snowbirds, expats, students, individuals who travel, work, and live in the United States. She has been featured on several podcasts and radio across the nation, immersed herself in education, educating Canadians on the benefits of cross-bordering banking. As a part of the Canadian Florida Chamber of Commerce, she also is actively engaged in several chambers throughout the state of Florida. Welcome, Marlene.
I am
And
so excited to be here.
thank you so much for coming in. Do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
I do, but due to technology, that's quite all right. As long as everyone is okay to hear me this way, I have sent some marketing material to share with everyone thereafter. And I can definitely speak and have some speaker's notes to discuss and share with the team that I believe will be quite beneficial right now. So, if I may, thank you very much for the opportunity to actually speak and discuss a few notes. So, RBC, many of you, thank you very much. As I was listening in, I was getting quite excited, and you cannot see me, but I was doing some touchdown type of movements of excitement to share. And one of the things that I want to really highlight to everyone here is I am Canadian. I live in the United States, work under RBC, but I am what they would say that KYC, the Know Your Client, but it's the Know Your Canadian. I have business affiliations. I have property in the US. I have a son that went to study in the United States. So, as an investor for students coming in, we're seeing these communities and we're seeing the shift, listening into Jill and Pauline as to the shift of what's happening as the Canadian consumer goes down. I'm hoping to provide some insight, not only of sharing that Canadian, but also how we could help your business grow. And Lori, you asked about, what key points, and hopefully I can bring some key points of what's important to you as the realtor with your Canadian that's there. Right now, you're having a shift of Canadians. Those snowbirds are coming up. They're coming back home to Canada. However, you're having another shift. We have hosted, it's incredible. I have to share this with the team. We have hosted the ones that we've participated here. Located in Ontario, the province that is abiding to the New York State, Ohio, and Michigan. When we're looking at this, I want to share with you that we have clients, investors that are looking at solutions outside of Canada for tax reasons, for many other reasons, including, the environment that we're in that was just discussed, and we're seeing that. So what they're doing is they're shifting and they're going down. So as much as you're having the snowbirds come up, you're having individuals go back down there and for those investments. Florida, for instance, especially in the area that you're in right now, we're also seeing here in RBC is the strong appetite for single family homes. We still primarily looking at the condos, but we're seeing that shift. I'm seeing that with the mortgage applications that are coming in. So, RBC, who are we? We are the largest institution in North America that we're looking at helping Canadians on both sides of the border. Number one digital bank in North America. Why is this important to you? Your clients, your Canadians can actually move up to $1 million for free immediately from one side of the country to the next. So when we're looking at the US banking benefits, and we're going to talk about it because not just Canadians, Americans alike, we don't like few things. We're worried about insurance. We're worried about, the fraud implications of certain things. We hate paying taxes, and we are taxed quite a lot here, and we hate fees. So when we're looking at this, we worked with amazing partners. I know that we've been working very closely with MoneyCore also to look at opportunities. This is vital for us to understand that. We are foreigners buying in the United States, but I can state with confidence, not only will we help with the everyday banking needs, but we will also help providing those lending solutions. So we finance in all 50 states. We are helping those Canadians do banking seamlessly. We may not have the brick and mortar, and for those of us that are over 15 years of age and older, we may have recalled we used to have brick and mortar in Florida. We did sell it to PNC, the brick and mortar, but we have the ability, again, to move money seamlessly back and forth. This is important. As Canadians, we don't know what an escrow means and all those other terminologies, but you can state with confidence to your Canadian clients that Look, you don't have to go back to Canada. Doesn't matter which bank you deal with, whether you bank with Bank of America, Regions Bank, TD, wherever you bank, RBC is here to help support Canadians, and they can pre-approve you now before you go back to Canada. Let's get you going here. And they can help you. It doesn't matter where you bank. So the digital capabilities are there and helping and what we can help, but we also do the real estate, obviously. We offer residential mortgages, and let me speak to this as to why this is important. The mortgages, when you look at it, and I was actually asked this some time ago, it's impossible. There's no way that you do this. We're the only institution that offer US domiciled mortgages, not foreign loans. So let's get that clear. It is not a foreign loan, it is a US domiciled mortgage. And you might think, hang on a second. To have a US mortgage, you do require US income, Social Security. And again, this is important to note. If you don't have that, how can RBC offer this? Well, we actually can pull up Canadian Equifax and US Equifax. We take in consideration Canadian and worldwide income. So that is important to note. So we offer US domiciled mortgages for Canadians, pre-approving them with their Canadian credit. They don't need a FICO score. Again, why is this important? National Association of Realtors, and this is where my financial planning comes in and memorizing stats, which I get quite excited, do state that 80% of Canadians purchase, and by the way, Florida is the #1 state, purchase in cash. Well, team, cash means they could possibly finance their properties here in Canada to buy down there when they don't need to. And what I mean by that is we will finance and we can hold the property in personal name, trust, or hold co on exceptions. And all they need is 20% down for what we consider primary or secondary residence, providing, this is important to note, providing that they can rent it, but the lease agreement cannot exceed 10 months, or they will require 25% down if it is strictly for investment purposes. So where does that down payment come from? Now, this is where, as even Canadians and Americans alike, saying, we actually state, due to the foreign currency, we all understand about this, due to the foreign currency, we only want 20% down. Because if you're going to finance, and I'm going to give the numbers, and I wish I had the slide, but just to give you a perspective, a consumer that actually buys a property for 500,000 needs that 20% down. And if right now with the exchange, we have a calculation, let's say 1.37, which is not the case. When that Canadian goes in to buy that 500,000 US property, it's actually going to cost them 685,000. That's like 126,000 more when they only needed 20% down. And again, we will finance the rest. That cost savings is 126,000. That down payment can come from their line of credit or their home equity or HELOC here in Canada. That's right. We can take a HELOC here and use that 20% down and we'll finance the rest. How we can do this is because we can see both sides of the spectrum. And that is huge. So when we are looking at that, when a client is, when they contact us, we will pre-approve them within 48 hours, provide you, the realtor, the letter to state that the client's been pre-approved. And yes, we speak to them. And as we speak, as Canadians, we're spoiled. As mentioned, we can advance a mortgage within 5 business days, signed, sealed, and delivered. What we are trying to educate, and we're hoping that realtors all over do, and do state that we can pre-approve. Go ahead, happy shopping. Let's make this happen. Let's look at this. And the only thing we do ask is, please set the expectation that you need to close this property within 45 days because we are limited on what we can do. We can pre-approve you, advance everything, get the banking all done, but we are at the mercy of third party. And that third party could be title company, appraisals, insurance. So we always advise our clients, ensure that your closing date is at least 40 to 45 days in advance. You can make that offer with confidence, firm, but the closing date should be 40 to 45 days. Obviously, there's exceptions that we can look at, but it's not because RBC cannot execute it. It is because we have to wait for others. And now, again, you may all know that, but the Canadian is not used to that. So it's setting that expectations to them. And yes, I do practice what I preach. I ended up doing a HELOC myself just to see how that was. And as a Canadian, we're like, wow, pretty soon they're going to want my DNA to actually want these forms. It is not that. It's true, but it's why is that so? It's just setting, once you set that expectation, that then as the Canadian, looking to make that purchase, they feel comfortable, they know. And it's the fear of the unknown. We don't know what we don't know. And if we set the stage to say, listen, we will help you, and we have partners, and we, again, as a Canadian, it's the fear. I don't bank with RBC, regardless of where your primary bank is. Many of our clients are their primary bank is not RBC, but they come to us because we provide that solution for them. We do provide them, by the way, Canadians, just so you know, Canadians are not used to the terminology that there's no pre-penalty. Here in Canada, you have, we don't have the arms, we have the variable and fixed rates that when you break the mortgage, there's limitations on how much money I can put down throughout my term. So when I state to the Canadian that we will pre-approve them within 48 hours, always look at what's the best rate for you upon closing, because you can pay it off, you can make lump sums. And here's something else to reinforce to you: we are providing you with a US domiciled mortgage, not a foreign loan. So there's no foreign premiums added to that interest rate. We will give you the best rate. The rate is calculated on many variables, and that variable could be and will be based on what's the down payment, what type of property dwelling, what is your credit score. There's other things in there, obviously county, type of dwelling, and purpose of that. Is that primary? Is it for investment purposes? So that way it would fluctuate, and we talk to the client every step of the way. So though the
Marlene, can I
process
interrupt you just
is
for 1 second? Marlene, can I interrupt you for 1
absolutely
second? So you brought up a good
yes.
point there, and I'm curious. I had always heard that y'all are much more conservative with your down payments. Is 20% the minimum, or can you get into something with less than 20% down?
RBC's appetite for risk is only 20, the minimum is 20% down. But
Okay,
it can come from their existing equity here.
sure, I
And
understand.
then as a Canadian consumer saying, wait a second, that's 100% financing. So you're saying mortgage my house here for the down payment. Absolutely. Do not liquidate your investment, your nest, your
Sure.
401, like the equivalent of Canadians 401k, their RSP. We have Roths, but the Canadians call them tax-free savings accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So what they often do is they say, okay, well, maybe we'll go into our savings. No, let's put this lien on your Canadian residence here.
Right.
We'll help you with that. And you can take that as your down payment and only convert that, because that foreign exchange is hard to do. Then convert that. And
Sure.
then we will finance the rest.
And then let
And
me ask you
that's,
one other thing. So your
please.
average interest rate right now, I know it was going to depend on the type of loan and how much they're putting
Yes.
down and their credit score and all that kind of stuff. But do you have like just a general answer for what is your average interest
So
rate?
I cannot give you an average because, they don't want to talk about the interest rates, but I can say that it's usually 1% less than what the American rates
Oh,
would
okay.
be.
Okay.
So that's why the Canadian consumer, more often than not, they might be talking to you and they might be saying, listen, I went to my bank in Canada and my goodness, I got 3.89 for 5-year fixed. And, your bank or your partner in the US is offering 4.9. That's crazy. That's like a big difference for me.
Right.
Well, that's where we will help the client. And I need you to be aware of, well, you can say to the client, well, there's no pre-penalty. You can pay your mortgage off anytime. And
Right.
that's a cost savings, immense cost savings. So if you're looking in, the opportunity, the flexibility, when you state to the client, the consumer that, We are looking at providing you seamless banking, flexibility, security, peace of mind to make that lifestyle change or that investment opportunity come to fruition. We can make that happen.
Okay,
And
great.
that is so crucial that we understand that. So the
Absolutely.
banking, the client,
So you mentioned
yes, go ahead.
5-year fixed too. Is that, so, we're very used to 30-year fixed rates.
Oh, no,
Um,
so let me explain how that works. You have arms. So our amortizations can be flexible. We only have through RBC on the US side, we only have 30 years. So
Okay,
that and how we explain it to the client is that the amortization is 30 years, but the terms that you negotiate right now are 3, 5, 7, and 10. Look at what's best rate for you at that time. And again, you can always break it, you can always change it, you can always look at it.
right, right.
And we state to them that 30-year amortization is actually to your benefit because it reduces the payment amount,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And when we speak to that, that's where they have that understanding because sometimes the Canadian consumer, yeah, forgive me, I think you were going to say like, they'll say, well, no, here in Canada, I can do a 10-year amortization. Why do I need to do 30? Well, it makes no relevance to you if you're doing it in the US because it's going to reduce your payment amount and the mortgage can be paid off anyway. It's again becomes it to plays into the equation when I'm going to be paying fees. Remember, we hate paying fees, we hate paying taxes, and I don't know who does like paying that. So
I
it's
was just going to say we have
reducing.
so much in common.
Yes. So
You,
it's go ahead, sorry.
no, that's okay, Marlene. I just want to, in essence of time, I think we need
Yes.
to wrap it up. If we have any
Yes,
questions from the
absolutely.
audience for Marlene right now, I do have one
Questions, anyone?
right there.
Here.
Sorry, I
Thank you,
cannot hear.
Marlene.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm here. Okay. Thank you, Marlene, for the presentation. It's very interesting. I have one question, though, regarding clients in Canada, the certain risks that they will be taking on by investing in the United States, other than the 10-year or 5-year loan, fixed rate at a smaller duration. There's
Yes.
also the problem that they are making money in Canadian currency and they are paying it off in U.S. currency. With inflation, let's say if Canada's inflation rate is higher than the U.S., it could be a runaway cost for your clients. So they could get hit with inflation and a depreciating currency. Paying in dollars would make their payment significantly higher over time. Are you able to do something about that risk? Is there a swap or some type of fixed rate that they can have
Okay.
in
So here,
Canadian?
okay, so here's something. If I'm understanding this correctly, I make a purchase and I'm going to simplify this. I make a purchase and I'm buying something and I get a mortgage for 200,000 US currency. And now I'm paying that mortgage um, in US currency and I'm earning Canadian dollars. There is something that if I'm going to rent it, so let's talk about the person, there's two different types of clientele. If that person is going to rent it, that rental income is coming in American. So you want to have a mortgage in the US, not a Canadian mortgage. You want to have that mortgage in the US. Now, if in your example, that it is the Canadian, much like myself, that has that mortgage on that property and I'm paying it with my Canadian earned income. We do have lawyers and tax specialists that will give a free consultation to the client because there is a way of making it tax efficient. If that money is coming if many of our Canadian consumers are actually leveraging the sleepy equity because they made those purchases in cash, they can take that money, bring it back to Canada, invest it, and it becomes a tax write-off, and it becomes again something that they can look at, and they speak to one of our tax advisors for that. So that's option number 2, and again, option number 3 when you're looking at the swap and opportunities is if there is a depreciation and when I'm paying off that mortgage, I'm doing, it's almost like the dollar cost averaging. I'm actually paying it in monthly, biweekly, and I can actually pay some off in the portions. It becomes, again, more when it looks at the foreign exchange, more attractive for me to ensure that I do get a mortgage there, leaving my liquidity here, even with the foreign exchange and that inflation. It is, we have calculators that will help the client understand what would be the best for them or paying that off and looking at different options. So we don't just say, we'll give you this mortgage now, run free. We will provide them the advice and tools before they make those considerations. And we also give them, even if they deal with a cross-border lawyer in the US or they have other partners, many of those tax lawyers and do not understand the Canadian system. So we do give them free consultations to provide them all the solutions and alternate solutions they have before they press that button. And even after, by the way.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I was going to say thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I've got one other question. Marlene, hi, it's Glow. A question about, do many of the people in the United States, are they using your bank? Because you said you have business in all 50 states. And has that
Yes.
changed in the last year and a half or so?
So many Canadians utilize RBC Bank USA as the go-to bank for facilitating cash and movement of cash through us. Yes, we have been present and we are able to finance, whether it be a mortgage in California, Hawaii. We have been in existence to do that. It's making sure that we create enough noise to publicly put that. We also have subsidiaries that partners that it's part of RBC is City National that we work with. So any of your clients that are looking for commercial, we cannot finance the commercial, but RBC City National will be able to speak with your clients. And I see a lot of industry growing with these communities in Sarasota that I have engaged my partners at City National to help. So even though you may hear that RBC is not able to finance, we only can do residential, we definitely can embrace it through City National. And they've been more relevant in the West Coast, but they will help your clients, especially for the commercial.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time and the presentation. It was super informative. And I just want to mention, we are going to have everybody's information at the end to share with all of our guests here today. So we'll have Marlene's information for you guys as well. We're going to move on to, thank you, Tamer Fahmy, broker of record and president of Keller Williams Edge Hearth and Home Realty in Burlington, Ontario. Highly respected industry leader with 5 decades of experience. He was first licensed in 1976. Tamer has played a pivotal role in shaping the profession through his leadership. He was president of the Ontario Real Estate Association and the Realtor Association of Hamilton Burlington, as well as chair of the Real Estate Council of Ontario. He founded his brokerage in '89. He has combined hands-on leadership with extensive volunteer service at the local, provincial, and national levels. He's deeply committed to his community. Tamer has also contributed through leadership roles as chair of the Burlington Chamber of Commerce and Tourism of Burlington. Widely recognized for insight, integrity, unwavering commitment to client satisfaction. He's proud to now serve a 3rd generation of clients. Tamer is NAR Global Member and holds CIPS and RSPS designations, and he's an awesome guy. Hi, Tamer.
Thank you.
Yay. So happy you're here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And we have John on the screen at the same time. John, should I do your
Please, let's
intro
go, John.
also?
I do have a question for John when he comes on as well. Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm going to do John's intro. Is that live, John, or is he? Oh, yeah, he just moved. I thought for a minute that was a picture. Like, no, he's real. Okay.
Hi.
All right. Okay. Hi, John. Another amazing person. So John DeMichel, CEO of the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, TREB, commonly lovingly known as TREB. John brings together a wealth of professional experience, the practitioner's perspective, and an intimate understanding of both technology and real estate landscape. John worked in the real estate profession initially as a salesperson, then as a broker manager, joining TREB's staff as Chief Information Officer in 2002. As CIO, John was responsible for all technology and for introducing and overseeing a variety of notable initiatives. As TREB's CEO, John's key priorities are protection of privacy and MLS data, while overseeing creation of a future-facing MLS system. Another major initiative is the research and optimization of the economic competitiveness and livability of the greater Golden Horseshoe region. In 2015, he initiated TREB's annual market year in review and outlook report. John has served on a wide range of committees and board of directors in organizations varying sizes, including TREB. Over the years, he's also contributed to the efforts of the Ontario Real Estate Association, Canadian Real Estate Association Board of Directors, while chair of the MLS and Technology Council. He was also a founding member and remains a current member of the MLS Home Price Index Group. John's a visionary behind the future-facing MLS initiative and the creation of PropTex Innovations. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
Perfect.
A wholly owned subsidiary of TREB. He currently participates on 2 North American MLS and technology think tanks and the Council of MLS Board of Directors. He's been recognized by the Swanee Poll T360 group. That sounds very fancy. And he was also named in the Real Estate Professions publication list of top industry leaders. He's an awesome guy, and he's also in charge of coordinating, I think I'm just like out of text here, but Realtor Quest, he was responsible for getting Pitbull last year. He will not tell us, he will not tell me anyways at this point, who the keynote speaker is going to be, unless maybe he's going to announce that today. I don't know.
I'll tell you right now.
John, awesome. Thank you.
Michelle
Welcome,
Obama.
Who?
Michelle Obama.
Obama.
No, stop. So sorry, I'm going to miss it. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I could have been a spoiler alert there, by the way, but I'll let the others.
He wasn't giving you that opportunity. All right, so I don't know who wants to start, but we're really excited to have both of you here.
Yeah, well, I want to start first of all, John. I'm humbled to be one of the guest speakers among this illustrious group of Canadian representation here at this session. But John, you had a chance to glance. I know you've been busy with board meetings and everything else. Did you have a chance to look at the PowerPoint presentation I'm about to give?
Yeah, you go ahead, and then I'll just follow you.
Tag team? Okay, very good. Well, if I may get permission now to share my PowerPoint presentation. It should be there. Okay, there we go. Is that on screen now?
Yes, kind of.
Oh, there. How's that?
Better.
Better. Okay, very good. Again, as I said, I'm humbled to be in the presence of such wonderful group, and thank you for inviting me to Sarasota, an area that I love dearly. I've spent some times there. Siesta Key is one that always comes to mind. I always like the afternoons there. So coming to you from Canada, we know that we're always talking about the Canadian snowbirds going down to Sarasota, spending the winters there to escape the cold, which happens to be still in place. We are just under 50 degrees, as Pauline mentioned. That's Fahrenheit.
Just helping our market. Thank you.
Okay, great. Today we're going to turn that telescope around a little bit, look at the Canadian real estate market. Despite the unique economic headwinds that were touched on earlier by Sean Cathcart from Korea, Canada still remains the most resilient and sought after destinations for global capital. So let's take a look at the Northern Globes. Again, my name is Tamara Fami. I'm representative here in Burlington, Ontario, which is just about half an hour from the Toronto, city of Toronto, and in the middle of the greater Golden Horseshoe area. So let's take a look at the Canadian real estate overview. We have a stable regulated market thanks to the banking regulations here. And again, RBC as a client myself, very well regulated banks. We do have 5 major banks, as was mentioned earlier. However, RBC happens to be one of the most popular #1 banks. And there is high demand driven by immigration, which has been curbed a little bit. We have seen during the pandemic a significant increase in the number of immigrants coming to Canada. It peaked in 2024 to about 484,000 immigrants during that year. And last year, it was the first initiative by the federal government to pare that back, and it dropped down to about 393,000. And moving forward, starting in 2026, we're looking at a target of just under 380,000. So that kind of drives the affordable market into a kind of a concern for federal government initiatives that we're going to talk a little bit more about. Key markets in Canada, obviously, is Toronto, which is a greater GTA, referred to as a GTA. It is the largest and most active. And of course, there's Vancouver. Jill enjoys that market. And I have, my wife and I have 2 children that live in the British Columbia area, just outside of the Vancouver market. And we can't get them back because of the attraction, the beautiful mountains and ski resorts that Jill was talking about. Other markets, major markets in Canada are Calgary, which has experienced some significant growth lately, and Montreal is in the province of Quebec. That is the French-speaking province, as some of you are now. Economic drivers, again, we talked about the population growth due to immigration, and we are challenged with limited housing supply. Major municipalities and federal as well as the provincial governments are partnering up to improve the urbanization and infrastructure for investment in all different parts across the country. Investment opportunities in Canada are primarily residential resale and pre-construction. We'll touch a little bit about that in a moment. The purpose-built rental housing market and the development land opportunities, these are bringing a lot of government levels in tandem with making the initiatives as attractive as possible to develop land and provide affordable housing. The cross-border interest is obviously continues to be there as the growing U.S. interest in Canadian markets is evident. We have excellent lifestyle stability factors are here in Canada are enjoyed province-wide and nationwide. Obviously, currency consideration was talked about today. We're dealing with a 73-cent dollar. So there's a lot of advantage definitely in looking at investments in Canada. And in terms of policy outlook, potential review of the foreign buyers ban was talked about earlier. We'll get a little bit more detail into that. And a shift toward targeted measures in increasing the housing supply. Recently, the federal government and the provincial government in Ontario announced an announcement for waiving what they call the HST taxes, that's harmonized sales tax, on all newly built homes. That's 13%. So there are some significant savings there for new home buyers. Up at $1 million average, that's $130,000 in savings. Looking at this wonderful country, Canada, Pauline was talking about all of the waterfront. And if you look, we're surrounded by oceans and bays. And if you look at all those little blue spots in the middle, those are all Great Lakes, as obviously is the area that I'm in, and this is fresh water. So this is where it attracts a lot of tourism and migrants, that immigrations that brings in people that come in like they're fishing, etc. Personally, I'm in the province of Ontario, which is at the lower section of this map, and Burlington, Ontario is right down at the bottom there around the Golden Horseshoe. So zooming in a little bit more, Toronto, as you see it at the top of that map on the left, is about 35 minutes from where I live, which is Burlington, Ontario. And it happens to be about half an hour to the other side to the border at Niagara Falls and Buffalo and Fort Erie and bordering on the state of New York. Right down at the bottom, this is my front yard, is Lake Ontario, and the backyard is the Niagara Escarpment, surrounded by beautiful sceneries and walking trails, and the Bruce Trail is bordering right just outside of my house, almost within half a mile from there. And these slides now, we have already looked at them. I see that I was looking at the presentation that Jill and Pauline presented. A lot of that is duplication, but I think what is interesting to note is how the trend was in the year 21 and year 22. And you could see the change in the market conditions. This is just an overview, gives you the trend of what's happening now, not much dissimilar from what is happening in the United States. The markets are definitely a buyer's market. And you've seen this chart in Sean's presentation earlier, as well as this one. I've been in business for 50 years. I have never seen a 5-month supply in our real estate market. This is a first for me, and we've seen, shifts in markets over the years, but never have seen it to be to that extreme. And we are hoping that we're going to see some turning points there. Again, this is another graph that shows the trend. This is for the Greater Toronto Area. It shows again the same similar trend, and it kind of mimics what is happening nationwide. Obviously, as you see there at the first quarter, we're lagging at about maybe 40% behind the same time last year from volume of sales. This is the Greater Toronto Area, and the next slide reflects the area in my own hometown there, the Halton region, which is Burlington. Again, you can see all of the similarities, kind of mimics what the market trends are today. So now let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. Canadian foreign buyers ban. That's an overview. So as Pauline and Jill mentioned, we have had a ban, and that was in reaction and response to the booming market in 22 and during the pandemic years, and that came into effect in January of 2023. Initially, it was supposed to be a 2-year measure, and it was extended to January 1st, 2027. It's aimed at improving housing affordability. We haven't really seen that take proof in the pudding yet. However, initiatives are being lobbied at all levels to revisit that and find alternatives to that ban, which opens the door to obviously foreign investment again. That ban is spread right across the country in all of Canada. Violating it imposes a fine of up to $10,000. A court order can be issued for the sale of a property to a non-resident or non-citizen should they violate and proceed with a transaction. Obviously, as realtors, we are very cautious with that, so we are inserting clauses to ensure that our buyers are genuinely either Canadian citizens or residents, permanent residents. Who is affected? A non-Canadian individual that is not a citizen or a permanent resident, foreign corporations, entities controlled by non-Canadians. The properties that are covered are residential properties between 1 to 3 units. It includes houses, condos, townhouses. It applies mainly in census metropolitan areas, which excludes my friend Pauline's area. This is a map of the province of Ontario. The dark green are the areas that are impacted by that foreign buyers ban. You cannot, if you are not a resident of Canada, buy a property in any of those darker green shaded areas. So Smith Falls is somewhere in there close to Ottawa. But as you can see, there are lots of areas where there are opportunities, which is mostly cottage countries, recreational areas, bordering. Sorry, I can't see, but is that a question?
Nope.
No, okay, I'll continue. As you can see, the Great Lakes are right in front of you there, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Simcoe, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario, which is near my hometown. All of those areas that offer waterfront opportunities are just fantastic areas to consider for investment. And the CMAs are defined, that's the considered are municipalities that have anywhere above 50,000 population. So there are many areas that are small towns and cottages that will be exempt from that. The initial consideration was intended to reduce the demand from foreign buyers. Jill had mentioned that there was a lot of influx of foreign buyers during the pandemic years and prior to that, of foreign investments that have driven the prices to not being affordable enough for local Canadian residents to be able to get into those markets. So that was initially introduced in BC first, and of course, Canada just spread it Canada-wide there. Limited share of foreign buyers in total market, that's what is a result of it. The potential impact on investment and housing supply was obviously affected by that. Again, the exemptions are temporary residents, students, workers under conditions, refugee protected persons, spouses of Canadian citizens, and permanent residents, and certain development-related exceptions. The current status, it is, as I said before, January 1st, 2027, it's subject to review and potential extensions. Again, in terms of lobbying, I personally wrote to my local member of parliament to consider a revision to that policy in some fashion or another. And we are waiting with bated breath to see what announcement will evolve eventually over the next few months about it being extended, abolished, or revised. In relationship to the provincial taxes, separate from the provincial measures, there's something else that is called the Ontario Non-Resident Speculation Tax, NRST. Pauline touched on it briefly, and also that applies in British Columbia, which is called the BC tax. And this operates outside of the existing taxes and regulations. And now the Ontario Non-Resident Speculation Tax, it applies to foreign buyers of residential properties anywhere in the province of Ontario. That was introduced in 2017. Like Pauline said, there was a speculation tax back in the 70s and the 80s, which went away, and now it came back. So hoping that it may go away again. It is province-wide in 2022, and it is designed to address housing affordability. The tax rate in Ontario, it's 25% added to the purchase price. I'm going to touch a little bit on the average price in my hometown here. But if you were to look at $1 million property, that's 25% added to the sale. Wow. That's like, it's $1.25 million instead of one. Fortunately, we have a 73-cent dollar. So kind of absorb it.
It's true.
In British Columbia, it's 20%. And I don't know much about, but maybe Jill can address that in any question that may come from the audience later on. And this applies again to any additional taxes. Pauline touched on land transfer tax. In Ontario, we have an additional tax in every transaction that a buyer will pay. Usually, again, it runs maybe around $7,000 to $10,000 on an average home of $750,000 to $800,000. In Toronto, that tax is duplicated. They have a municipal land transfer tax, and John will probably talk to that as well. It is one of the highest globally, those amount of taxes. So
yeah, it's super high. Can I interrupt you just for 1 second before I forget it, because I think it's relevant. I don't know if either one of you have a percentage, a number of this, of how many Canadians actually own their own homes. You got any idea?
Yeah,
because it seems so high.
60 to 65%, I would say, is a number, subject to any additional confirmation from my colleagues.
Okay.
That's homeowners in terms of we don't pay that tax here. This is only applicable for foreign buyers that buy in the province of Ontario or BC.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. So wait, we have another question too. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hi. I wonder, when you're talking about the countries and the ban on different properties, are there exemptions for certain countries, or are certain countries, like here, some of the states will ban particular countries from investing in their states? Is that the same thing, or are there exemptions for other foreign areas of buying?
It's simply non-Canadian residents or citizens.
So the whole world besides Canada.
Anywhere from anywhere else in the world. Like it applies to US citizens, which quite frankly, and I've had the experience of having clients move up here from the United States. If one of them is a Canadian citizen or a former resident of Canada, they can come in and they're exempt from that tax.
Okay.
And this is one of the other points I'll touch on. It's actually on this slide. Spousal exemption. If one of the buyers is a Canadian resident or citizen, that exemption does apply as well. Okay.
We have one more question for you concerning that last point.
Yeah, regarding that last point, is the 25% tax for the purchase or also the sale of a foreign national?
The sale is a different taxation model. A non-resident selling a Canadian property, there are taxation, which we have something called capital gains in Canada. And the capital gains is a profit that you make is subject to taxation. And non-resident is also taxed as a non-resident tax when they sell.
Is the 25% tax included in the basis of that capital gain? So let's say I buy $1 million property.
One
And
applied to
I
sale.
bought it literally for 1,250,000.
That's when you're
I sell
buying.
it for 1,250,000. Do I have to pay capital gains on the 250,000?
You have to pay capital gains on your gain. So if you sell it for
Gains.
1.5 million, there's a taxation on that excess. And if for a non-resident, that's usually a holdback at the time of completion of the transaction by the solicitor that closes the sale. For non-resident sellers, it's a different rule than buyers.
Got it.
Right now, we're discussing the foreign buyers tax as well as the non-resident tax in the province of Ontario.
Got it. Okay, I think I have one more, Tamara. I'm sorry.
No,
Right
no.
back here.
Who's that?
I can't hear the question.
Hi, this is Priya Acharya from Keller Williams on the Water, Sarasota. I look at this market as a great buy-side opportunity for people in the U.S., despite so are you seeing a trend of a lot of people from the U.S., given given the appreciation in the currency? Do you see a lot of buyers coming in from the U.S. despite your taxation structure? Or is it banned till 2027?
Well, we're hoping that 2027 will change that. And once it does, maybe we do see an influx of US investors in particular. We're getting a lot of interest, but I think the taxation is probably hampering the volume of sales right now. And I think you've seen that in the slides before about the activity and the volume of unit sales that we're not experiencing as much. It is a buyer's market. And
Just not an American buyer's market.
As Jill said earlier, buyers should be buying in a buyer's market. But instead, what happens usually is we see the opposite.
Right.
But we think right now with the headwinds that we're experiencing, we're probably going to see a little bit more activity once things maybe stabilize in a variety of different fronts, geopolitically, as well as any of the political, the taxation implications that are in place right now.
Do you anticipate that they are going to continue it?
I hope not, but we'll see.
For sure, yeah.
Like I said, bated breath. We'll see. And I think that's where the lobbying efforts, and I applaud the Canadian Real Estate Association, the Ontario Real Estate Association, the Toronto Real Estate Board for always being there in front of our politicians and, saying what is going to be best for our consumers. And I think most importantly, developing a system that helps affordable housing initiatives. And that's what we're hoping for. There are different measures that keep coming, and we're just waiting to see what will eventually work. So there are good initiatives recently that are implemented by the federal government that are going to help affordable housing initiatives. That taxation exemption from the HST about 2 or 3 weeks ago that was introduced. We think that might be a starting point to help putting people more into housing in Canada.
Great. Okay, thank you.
So where I am right now, I think is the number, for the difference between the number of units, what properties that are covered between the federal and the provincial in Ontario is the residential units up to 6 units. It also includes homes, condos, townhouses, and applies right across Ontario. And it does apply to the full purchase price, as we talked about. It is not prorated based on ownership share. It's based on citizen, not tax residency. And the exemptions and rebates, there's an asterisk there I'll touch on later on, and that is a spouse exemption, Canadian citizen, or permanent resident. There are rebates that are applicable to a buyer that becomes a permanent resident within 4 years of acquisition of that property. So if any of you folks are planning to become a Canadian resident down the road, then you would have that as a rebate according to the current policy.
Okay.
Certain nominees and protected persons. Don't know exactly what that means, but that was one of the footnotes in the information that I downloaded. Market impact. It's a short-term reduction in foreign demand, as we're seeing, and like we said, maybe that does come to an end. And if it does, then it will certainly change the landscape of future potential investments. The potential effect on the pre-construction market, Jill had touched on it, and I know that John might touch on that as well. We have seen a lot of high-rise developers put a lot of projects on hold as a result of that implication, because they were doing a lot of sales to non-residents, and now the pre-construction market is basically taking a wait and see attitude. A lot of developers are just kind of putting those projects on hold because they do need a certain percentage of pre-sales before they can, commence construction. Interaction with the federal policy is obviously a continual effort to dialogue with our federal government to revisit some of those initiatives. And in terms of the province, without a specific speculation tax across Canada, it seems that only Ontario and BC are the only victims of that to that degree. Alberta doesn't have any, Saskatchewan doesn't have any. Manitoba has land ownership rules, but nothing major like a speculation tax. Same with Quebec, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland and Labrador. So consideration for politicians that we would be outreach for is limited impact on affordability and what initiatives that have been taken so far. We're still having affordability challenges. The potential constraints in supply, and that's a result again of some of the projects being put on hold because the volume of sales are not coming in at the same level that meets the demand. Opportunities for targeted measures are also recommendations to our politicians. So the key takeaways are high rate of tax. It already deters foreign buyers from considering investments in Canada. It's a redundant and cumbersome when combined with the federal ban. And there's certainly opportunities for policy refinement. And we're constantly speaking to our politicians in those regards. And in closing thoughts, we need a balanced policy to bring the market to some kind of a level balance. We encourage investments while supporting affordability. So there needs to be a balance in finding the best solutions to meet both those initiatives. The opportunities remain very strong in Canada, as the one question there from the young lady earlier about great opportunity to buy in Canada with the exchange rate being what it is. And of course, being a buyer's market with our average price have lowered somewhat from the peak times of the pandemic. There's certainly a shortage of housing supply, and it's still a challenge today. Stability and confidence in our regulation is something that we were proud of, because we go back to 2008, what we experienced was a lot different than what was experienced south of the border due to our banking regulations. Consumer confidence, I see that people want to make a move. They want to see more of a balanced market, but many buyers and sellers are both at this situation are in a wait and see mode to see what is happening on the horizon down the road. And finally, again, emphasis on the 73-cent dollar. The asterisk, I always refer to professionals in the lending industry, like my friend Marlene was talking about, RBC. Always consult with accounting and legal professionals when you're considering an investment in the Canadian market. And
Thank you
with
for the
that,
disclaimer.
sorry, I conclude my comments, and there's my information there. Anybody can, I know you're going to make it available to everyone. We welcome referrals. And if
Absolutely.
we transact here in my hometown because of the additional tax or ban, I know that we have a great referral network across the country where the ban is not applicable, like in Pauline's backyard and many other people in the area. So please reach out, and thank you again very much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, that should be. Thanks.
John, did he leave you anything to say?
Oh, I have lots to say.
I know.
Okay, great.
I'm waiting.
I'm going to give you a bit of a more macro look at what's happened. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I want to clarify that the whole issue with respect to Realtor Quest is we don't have 40,000 people. We had
I was going to ask you, like,
11,000
really,
people.
how many do you have?
It's just, it's so exciting. But thank you for saying that. But I wish I had 40,000.
What's your average? How many were there last year?
Just under 12. We have
Okay,
12,000
all
people,
right.
which is still like a ridiculous number.
A
So
lot.
so
But
yeah.
I'm definitely your hype man.
Yeah, you are, and I love it. So I'm going to share my screen as well. But I guess what I want to say is uh, a couple things, really. Can you see that? Is that
No,
actually this?
no,
Is
I
that
don't see
working?
anything yet.
Okay, hold on. Let me see what I can do. I don't understand why it's not showing up. I don't want to get off this. So, hold on. Um, yeah, I'll close this. Close this. And do that. Okay, let me see if I can actually get it to work, and it's not going to. So, um, 1 sec. Is that up there?
Something's coming, but this, yeah, there we go.
Does that
You're
work?
good. Yep.
Okay, good. So, um, I just got back actually from presenting at the UN, and it was to the FIAPSI symposium people, and it was a real experience to be in the room with these folks and to have the opportunity to listen to other people speak about their markets and what's happening around the world. And it's, fundamentally we talk about affordability, they talk about affordable housing. We have slums here, but we really don't have slums here compared to what the rest of the world endures. And we should be really grateful for the worlds that we live in. We have the opportunity to do what we do. So I'm again, I feel always so fortunate to be able to participate. We learn quickly that people are people and that everybody needs a place to live. And you said earlier about the percentage of people that own homes in Canada. Well, the sad part is that, yes, while it's true, we have 66 or 67 last time there was a percent of the people that owned their home. And I guess that was 5 years ago when they did the last major census. But I believe that number is dropping because we're seeing a significant change in behavior in people. And if we actually look at the issues that people face today, it's really significant simply because, you know, we're in a situation where people can't afford to live. And for the first time in history, the next generation in Canada, in particular in our area, is asking themselves, are they going to be able to buy a home? And I know that, firsthand because my kids are in a situation where they've been priced out in our region. And I think, Tamara, you know that. There's a lot of people that they have to share to buy houses now. It's a completely different experience and it's much more onerous. But if you look at this, for the first time in history, housing has outstripped healthcare as being the number one concern that's facing Canada today. And so, while people are very excited about it, the opportunities right now, it's really the economic conditions that's creating the uncertainty, and uncertainty being the major player here. Unfortunately, the greatest issue that we're facing is because Canada is a border country, basically. And in many cases, our greatest trading partner lies south of the border, which is you folks. And we are in a very stressful position with the tariffs. And the interesting thing about the tariffs is that it's having an impact, even though borrowing costs are reasonable, inflation is under check, but the overall economy, the well-being of the economy, is really impacting people's opportunity to actually own. Rental now, as I said, is outstripping home ownership, but it's the tariffs. And when I talk about tariffs, it's really a psychological barrier because, well, I guess my brother actually makes rivets for brake pads and for cars. and he supplies the Oshawa plant here, and he also puts rivets into brake pads for airplanes. Now that steel is generated in Canada, so it crosses the border, tariffs, right? Then it comes back in the form that he needs it because it has to be manufactured and worked at so that he can actually use it to create these. It's very specialized rods that he has to use because they can't fail. And then it comes back across, then he does his thing, and then it goes across the border again. So really, it's a de facto tax on you, the American people, because you are paying those tariffs when the final goods get there. And that's the very strange thing. Everybody thinks that the tariffs are impacting Canada, but they're not. What they're impacting are jobs. We don't pay the tariffs here, but it's the jobs that are the issue here. And people are losing their jobs. So people now are asking themselves, can I afford to buy a house? But more than that, they're actually asking themselves with this other stuff that's going on in the Middle East, with the cost of gasoline skyrocketing here, we're paying almost, it's $1.80. So we're looking at, if we just round it up, about $7.80 a gallon US.
Wow.
And that's impacting the cost of food. I mean, if you want to buy a roast here, you're paying $90.
Really?
Yes. Oh, I was just there the other day and I said, we're not having this. I went to the hamburger session.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a good old hamburger.
No. Well, actually, it's my favorite, so I'm glad. So that's my favorite meal, just so you know.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. So the reality is that, they're starting to feel, can I afford this? And because we're a border and most of our trade is natural resources, there's so much more going on in people's minds. So our economic centers are characterized by the economic impact in those metro centers. So let me see if I can get this to move now. Can I get the next slide? Huh. One sec. I'll just do it this way. See that? So this is our market conditions from across the country. And if we hit the next slide, you'll see that the green shows where there is greater activity. Market conditions are tighter because of their specific economic impact. So when you have whatever it is that those particular areas are in, you look at Alberta, their oil, their natural gas, and we're actually doing the right things there. So there's work. If you look at the other places, you can see a little bit of stress in other areas, but the further away you get from some of these major centers, the more activity, simply because of price. But if you look at what's happening with permanent population growth, we're starting to see an impact. So people are not staying here.
Yeah.
And that's a very serious issue. It impacts so many different things. So if you look at this foreign buyer ban, I would say it's time to get rid of the foreign buyer ban. We have people lining up from all over the world to come in and invest in our areas.
Yeah.
And I see it on a regular basis. We also have another thing that's driving the market, and why it is. I'm painting a picture to tell you how much of a deal you're going to get if you actually come here to invest. And I'm not kidding. So we have a record number of people that bought during COVID that are in the renewal stage where they were paying as low as 1.9, 1.8%, some less on their mortgages. They're coming up to renewals now, and they're going to pay twice as much, double interest rates that's the best case scenario. Would you not agree, Tamara and everyone? I mean, it's very serious for these folks. So now they're in refi and they're in negotiations, and trust me, the mortgage companies, because our market's been down so far, that they're clamoring to get renewals and refinances. So
Yeah.
it's been a very interesting time. And as this permanent growth continues to go down, now we're seeing this. This is our and because we have such a great coverage over our marketplace, this is what we can truly report. We're seeing the average price trend go down and the mortgage rate also going down. This is sort of in line with everything that's going on. If there is a bump here, it's going to create real serious issues. And we know that to be true. But despite the affordability issue, we're still going to see approximately 30,000 less sales year over year from last year. That's significant, right? So there was a period of time where you needed, in 2023, you needed 50% of the household income that would have been required to cover the principal and interest payments alone if you were buying a home in the GTA.
Wow.
So it wasn't manageable for most people. So
Right.
they turned to the rental market. So the rental market goes crazy because the condos, which is a big problem in Toronto, some of them are still very empty, but they built the wrong stock. They were building 250 square feet to 600 square feet, 550. I mean, now people are absorbing those because the people who live in the condo are buying them as a second room. They're buying them as guest quarters or a gym or a rec place. And they're getting a
Yeah.
very good deal just because they want to get them off their books. So a
Yeah.
very strange dynamic has been going on there. And even though we're getting population growth, but we're not getting people staying. We used to have about a significant number of people that were our foreign students. And that was sort of a backdoor to come into Canada.
Yeah.
We increased, I think, over the last few years, we've increased the number of people in our area by 2 million. You cannot drive on our highways now. I mean, am I lying here, Tamara? No. And it's crazy. And now they're trying to catch up with the infrastructure, but they're not going to. And it's really hard to get to work, and we don't have the proper transit things in place, although they're trying very desperately to get it in place. So we've grown too fast, and we've got real issues to contend with. In this slide, what I talked about was the amount of money you actually needed in order to be able to afford. And now we're seeing it down here, but we have not seen the pickup. Although I'm going to say the last couple of months, we've seen an uptick in activity, more than I anticipated. And it's actually it's a nice thing to know. But I'm going to show you the next slide. This is the one that shows the real impact. This is the black line, expected home sales based on employed GTA population. This is generally the trend line. This is telling us, the blue line, the actual home sales. So and this is peak during COVID when the world went crazy. And now you can see that we've drifted significantly below real trends. So this represents pent-up demand. So we know that this is going to create a real problem if everybody rushed to get into the marketplace. We will have probably similar issues that we had during this period of time. I really hope that's not going to be the case. I think what we need to really be able to provide is the opportunity for people to buy in a very, very gradual way. But if you look at what's happening in the condo market and in the rental markets, rents are coming down as well, which is at their peak. A one bedroom was going, and still some people are asking for this, and then they wonder why their rentals are empty. They're asking for $2,400 a month to rent a one bedroom.
Wow.
People
Yeah.
don't want one bedrooms. They want condos with two bedrooms. They want rentals with two bedrooms because now if they're gonna need someone to share the place with, unless it's their partner, maybe they can do
Right.
one bedroom. But otherwise, they want a place to grow, even if they are married, even if they are partnered. They want to potentially have children. So then they want to have the extra bedroom. but that's extremely expensive. I mean, if you're paying that kind of money as a former realtor, I would say, why are you throwing it into rent? Buy something,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So the opportunities are going to present themselves in the next little while. And I think that people are really starting to understand the opportunity and the overall population growth. And we're being careful. We have a zero population immigration at this point in time, which is critical. Although that's not really true because we're still seeing people come in. Um, and we still have a significant number of refugees that were let in some time ago, and they're actually in hotels right now being put up by the federal government. So the other thing that's going to impact this particular this slide of the pent up demand is that the immigration population usually buys within 4 years. They save enough money during that 4 year period, and our studies show that they buy. Well, they're not buying. And if they come into the marketplace, that means they're all first time buyers, and they're gonna start that process of if they have to buy something, those people have to buy something. And that's that whole domino effect of activity that we anticipate, but it frightens me because it looks too big. And a run up like that will create another problem. So that's what we're seeing. But the uncertainty right now is holding people back, as I said. And this is the confidence level. And if you look at, it's near historic lows. This is not common for the market that we're in, but you saw the bump and now we're seeing it drift down. And we anticipate that this is going to stabilize. So what we're all praying for here, and hopefully I'm speaking for everybody else, I'm praying for a balanced marketplace so that we actually have stability and real opportunity for anybody who wants to come in to buy in our area actually buy. But the pandemic really caused a real issue. Right now, I think we're lucky that it's not continued because then it would price people out of homes in this generation, and they're already considering it. And I'll tell you, you need parents now to actually um, put money in. They did it during the pandemic, and most of those homes have two mortgages on them because their parents actually had to borrow money to give their kids, and now the kids had to get a full mortgage. And now we're almost in the same place, but less so because the numbers are coming down. And 40% of millennials are living in their parents' basement still. How do I know? Because I got them.
You got one in your basement?
I got one. Well, it's not in the basement. She lives in part of the house, but here's the reality, and we touched on this, or Tamer did. A coalition that I put together um, worked with the governments, various levels of government to take the GST off of purpose-built rentals, and we had that done with the help of our friends across the other associations. But most recently, the HST on new builds, we are not building homes, and we're pressing everybody, particularly in the GTA, to start building again and not condos. They need to do what we refer to and have been banging the drum on is missing middle. And this is how we've been describing the missing middle over the years. And my mother's a great example. They went through their stages of life, and then they finally bought their forever house. And then my dad passed away. We all moved out. She's alone. The place is like 2,600 square feet, but she doesn't want to move. The reason she doesn't want to move is because her sister is a 5 minute walk away. She knows exactly how to get to everybody that she needs. The grocery store, the butcher. She knows how to get her car fixed and do all these things. But she should have downsized, but there's no way she was going to do that because this is where she wanted to be.
Right.
But in those neighborhoods now, we can see it happening. We need more of it. We need like stacked townhouses. We need, condos that are that in the same neighborhoods, people can transition throughout their life transitions. And these are the things that we're really working on and making some headway on. But what we did with the HST was the coalition did the same thing. We went to our premier, Doug, and he's the one that worked with the federal government, and Korea was also involved in that, to say we're going to remove the HST. But it starts from us. And when I say us, I mean us, all of us here collectively. If we all work together and we get to the people who are that understand how to make this more reasonable, we can move the dial, and we can make it more affordable for people just to live. And shouldn't that be the primary goal? So I'll leave it at that.
You're absolutely right. Thank you. That was awesome. We really appreciate your overview, both of you. Thanks so much for your time. I would
My
say
pleasure.
key takeaway here is Canada's going to be on sale pretty soon. So we
Yes.
should get up there with our dollars and hope in January we're able to actually buy something. And we hope to see you all at Realtor Quest. I'm going to really miss not being there this year, but hopefully some of the people in the room can be there and can meet you guys in person.
Thank you again.
That'd be lovely.
Look forward to
I think
seeing.
we got to wrap it up. Is there any burning questions? We're like 10 minutes over as it is. Everybody okay? Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
Thank you
us.
so much.
Thank you guys
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
All of you appreciate your time, and everybody's information will be available. Thanks, guys.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.